Good evening. Welcome to your new moon solar eclipse reading for the 20th of April. A little bit of housekeeping. This is not a problem. It is it is a little bit of a problem, but it is a nail wrap because my nail keeps splitting. If you know me, you know I have a very physical job, and I haven't been able to solve the riddle of my hereditary middle fingernail just yet, but the nail wrap really helps, so don't be alarmed. Toroto, given to me by my good friend Anna, is smiling and waving there, so everything is kind of happy. And as eclipses go, this, while it has a lot of momentum and a lot of energy, feels a little bit like a breaking point, like a turning point in some energies that have been incredibly dense and stuck feeling. Now, if you've been with me here before at the new moons, you know that we do a druidic pathway spread. Druids being Northern European priest class, nature priests. In my people's history, the Irish people's history, the English people's history. And this is a type of reading that gives us the effort to overcome the kind of inertia that we've been dealing with. It gives us an idea of the pathway through the energies that have been difficult. Moon will be in sidereal or Vedic Aries until 422. I think it moves into tropical Taurus almost right away. So this solar eclipse will occur at the 29th degree in the tropical system, very fateful ending degree of Aries, the initiatory Martian warrior sign. But the solar eclipse new moon occurs in the Vedic nakshatra of Ashwini, the lunar mansion of the twin horses, the physicians to the gods, the healers. And we do expect that there may be a healing crisis associated with this eclipse, because an eclipse is a sort of cosmic crisis. A dimming of our star is challenging, to say the least. The natural world observes it that way. Animals lying down, a strange effect on the light. Then immediately after that eclipse, Mercury goes retrograde. So there's a review coming up. Not only a review with Mercury and its realm, which is transportation, education, communication, and basically how we assimilate the data that comes to us through our senses, how we know what we know. But then Jupiter is ending a 12-year cycle as well and changing sign in both zodiacs. He will enter Aries in the sidereal and enter Taurus in the tropical. So big movement for guru, big movement for wisdom, big changes in what we know, how we know it, the impetus of what we know. And then the very next day, so it's like 4 days in a row, right? The Sun will be conjunct Rahu, and they are the North Node, I should say, in the tropical system, and they are enemies. The influence of Rahu is that he wants what the Sun has. It takes, obscures, and holds the light of the sun away from the earth. You know, this is a time for personal growth and change, and it's wonderful to use the hours now of the eclipse starting right now at this very moment to reflect upon your personal journey. The transmission that you can get through silence or stilled activity or turning inward with these alignments, especially everything loaded up in the sign of Aries and in that initiatory healing nakshatra, the birth of the beginning of the healing crisis, you know, you can get the kind of insight that you need to move yourself forward here. And since we're just coming off Navratri, which is the 9 nights of the goddess, I really want to honor those goddess energies, which are also the energies of the 3 gunas, right? We're talking about inertia and sustenance and holiness and sacredness as 3 parts of a process. And human beings are much better described, in my opinion, as processes. We are constantly in the process of living and dying, energies moving in 2 directions, and embodying that is sacred in the universe. It's something very special, higher than the province of angels, higher than the nature spirits, are we who must overcome the dichotomy of matter and form. So as we do this together, you know, whether we want to be together or not, doesn't really matter, because here we all are under the same sun, under the same influence of shadow, and under the same darkness. So I thought I'd do it a little bit differently this time, honoring the goddesses by pulling 3 cards, 1 for the goddess Durga for release, 1 for the goddess Lakshmi for relinquishment, and 1 for the goddess Saraswati. And this is the card of reception. So briefly, what we have here is weasel, ermine. This is the energy of stealth, right? He was, or she, we don't know, was the animal that was able to smoke the white people's camps. He was able to slide into them unobserved and find out the kind of information that couldn't be taken from an enemy camp. Like, you can't see what weasel knows from the standpoint of dichotomy. You have to be able to move to the side that opposes you, to be able to be in their camp in order to know what their power is. And weasel very tearfully had to come back to the tribe of the real people and tell them, you know, they have these guns. Isn't that interesting? Right now we're talking about guns that will claim the biodiversity that we have worked our entire ancestral life in order to attain, that they have weapons of destruction that will send us into hiding for decades, if not hundreds of years to come. And having the courage to speak up in that way and to tell the truth that you were able to perceive by it's a form of compassion, not wholly compassionate, because you're going to see what they're up to, right? But this is the kind of thing that we need to release. We know now and can name and can understand the forces that are stacked against us. We need to be able to release that information into the ether as completion. and then move into a state of relinquishment, loyalty to it. This is exactly what came up in our last reading. What has been working against us is loyalty to the system that's trying to kill us. And we know it's trying to kill us. I mean, I'm not sure how you can look at the system that we have going on now and remain in any kind of denial about the fact that there will be nothing there for the next 7 generations. And we have to change our loyalty to that. We have a way about us of being like a dog. And I think this is really bare bones plain to see in a lot of loyalty toward politicians and political figures and celebrity. This is nothing but habit. And like a dog that goes back to the owner that beats it, this is something to be overcome. And it is a great lesson for our people to think for themselves, to think in their own best interests, and then to move toward joy. The reception card for this one is the hummingbird. And hummingbird is absolutely light and joy and rainbow-colored iridescence. And you know what people who haven't spent any time with hummingbirds don't know, though, is that these are territorial little people, and they fight with those little swords on their noses, and they fight for their territory, and they fight for their rights, and their joy, their glory is to reflect the light of the one sun in diversity and rainbow colors. So I think this Tridevi little spread that we brought up, the sign of Durga, releasing the fact that we do know what is stacked against us at this point. We need to relinquish our loyalty to it in the name of Goddess Lakshmi and higher abundance, and that we will receive our joy through upholding our boundaries. Now, moving back into the Druidic pathway, the balsamic and the new moon, this effort to overcome the inertia of the moment, that stark realization that what we're involved in is not in our best interests. You know, when you've gone down the wrong path for so long, it's very difficult to let go of the habits and the everyday actions that hold you, hold me, hold all of us in a place of moral turpitude, a place of stagnation. The gene swarm that we're involved in biological life on Earth is about movement, and it's about the free flow of movement and genetic material between different groups. We don't need borders in order to accomplish what we need. We don't need to see each other as enemies anymore. We need a world that reflects higher values because we're becoming higher beings. And we want that for ourselves and for our children. So as we're moving from the darkness of this moon into the revelation of what the sun is trying to teach us, the inertia of the past, the attachment to the past, and the limits of the past, and the purpose of the cycle is what we're asking to be able to see in this particular spread. One more time in Matsudevaya, the Tridevi, the 3 goddesses, the gunas, the qualities of nature that bind us all until they don't. So the past, the card of the past for us today is the Whirling Dervish card. If you live in my area, you know the grouse, many different types of grouse. This is a nourishing creature, but it also describes the spiral of the goddess and speaks to that long history, you know, the 6,000 year birth tunnel of the mother goddess that oppression, patriarchy, and industrialization, essentially warring, has brought us. This is something that you move through. You keep moving like the genetic material. You don't stop when you're in a dark place. You move through, right? And this spiral that this bird's mating dance describes moves and works equally well in both directions. This is how you get yourself out of a dichotomy, right? You work the spiral in the other direction. And the one that leads inward is the one that we're focusing on right now as we move through the eclipse energy. The spiral that moves outward is the one that we will be able to focus on once we move through the difficulty of our loyalty. And the inward energy and the outward energy create the whole. These are the things that we've learned to describe as masculine and feminine. One moves inward, one moves outward. And that's basically all that is saying, right? We have each of those energies within us. How we move in the past is and can be the exact opposite of how we move in the future. But we have to be the one to make the change, right? So the past is this whirling dervish card, the goddess spiral, the ancient traditions, and the connection to nature and the DNA. The present card, the card of the current moment, we are being dogged by a dog. And I love this because, again, if you know me, you know that I had a German Shepherd for 13 years whom I still love dearly, and I visit very, very, very often in my dreams and on the mountain where I live. But there's a time in life where we have to be more loyal to ourselves than we are to ideas, to ideologies, to nationalism, to old systems that won't suit the coming generations, right? Dogs have short lifespans. They pass everything they have and they know on to their children, and their children, the pups, the pack, is the focus of their entire life. But with each generation, a new pack is born. We need to be able to move into our future in that way. We need to be able to embody both the past and the future as a bridge for those who come after us. We can't remain loyal to one way. We do have to move into the future. And that is our present moment energy. The future is Coyote. This is the energy of the trickster. Trickster gods exist in nearly every culture, at least the ones that I've ever studied. And they have a way of bumbling toward wisdom. I think it's really interesting that one of the biggest focuses of this solar eclipse is the movement, the conjunction with Jupiter and the movement of wisdom and knowledge in a difficult situation, right? It's occluded in this creature that is like the briar fox, right, of the Appalachians, the one that sometimes gets into trouble, sometimes bounces its way through difficulty, can often, pick your pockets and leave you wondering what just happened with its slyness, but then on the other time, be stumbling drunk and hurt itself. You never really know. It's kind of the wild card of the deck. And our future is that kind of unknowing right now. In the Western chart, Pluto is squaring the nodes and therefore squaring the sun and the moon in this chart as it moves into eclipse. And we've been undergoing this, especially in America, for a very long time, where we're being shown the dark parts of ourselves and the difficulty and the underbelly and the things that we don't want to pay attention to. And if you don't have a sense of humor in a time like that, you risk your mental health. One thing that can be said of the trickster energy in all places is that it may not look sane, but it's always mentally healthy because it moves on to the next thing. It's like we said about darkness. You don't stop, take a photograph, and decide that darkness is your whole life, right? You keep moving until the light returns. And that's the basic intimation of trickster mythology or trickster archetypes, is that there's always going to be another story, right? You never hear a trickster story about its own death. I mean, at least I haven't. I love that its number is 13. This is the number of the goddess. And it is related to this dog card because the dog is 14, right? We have lots of 3s and 4s in our reading right now. And Ketu, the number of the south node, is 7. This is a healing number like the Ashwins. And so we keep that in mind as we move forward into a future of trickster energy. Very interesting. I love coyotes, by the way. They're some of my favorite dogs. Out here we call them song dogs. They make these beautiful noises at night. When you're camping, you can hear them. If you live out in or near the woods, they may be a little dangerous to your domestic dog, though. They may be a little dangerous to your present. You need to keep an eye on your present moment when there's a trickster about, right? One thing I'm really getting from both of the charts of this eclipse is you need to be very aware. Be aware if you can, if you still have the ability of the body more so than anything else. And dog cards and canids, feet on the ground, about the body, right? Below the waist is instinct. Above the waist is intuition. We mind the body first, and only there will we find that moment where we can pause, where we can stop before we act in a reactionary way, before we have too much Aries in us and we behave impulsively. It's very important to stop, ground yourself, put your paws on the earth. The lessons moving through right now are female energy. We have been seeing this card a lot as well. This is another joyous energy like hummingbird, but I'm getting a lot of ability to receive with this one. We're moving out of one paradigm and into another, and there's a lot of lack around that. I perceive a lot of people thinking, oh, because I'm thinking it, not other people, maybe this people, I'm not going to be able to have my favorite things. I'm not going to be able to have the future that I thought I would have if I let go of this ideology, if I let go of these systems that are proving themselves to be broken. But 8 and Otter is an infinite number. It moves in the way of the trickster through in ellipses and epochs and through spiral and the kind of things that you don't expect that you're going to see. If we're able to receive new movement, if we're able to receive moving in new ways, if we're able to keep the heart and the mind open at a time like this, which is really what receptive feminine energy is about. I mean, look at it this way. If we're moving from patriarchy into matriarchy, really all that's happening there is the movement from projection to reception. And we need a lot less projection in our world. We're seeing lots of people accuse others of things that they are actually doing. They're absolutely projecting their own flaws onto other people because they can't deal with what's within. The feminine energy, the receptive energy, is all about what's within. The spiral moves in that direction and is respectful and loyal to what it finds there. It deals with it in refreshing and wonderful new ways. And honestly, do you know anything more magical than the ability of the female body to bring new life into the world? I mean, you're making your body like a portal, just like eclipse energy. Don't sleep on what comes through, right? Don't sleep on that next generation. Don't sleep on the next iteration. Be mindful of, where you are in the present, but at the same time, that you stand on the shoulders of what came before you and that you are giving to the future with what you can receive now. You are a pass-through entity, my friend. You are not going to be here forever. Plan accordingly. So that's our lessons moving through the current moment. And I feel like that's really true because it keeps happening and keeps coming up. The lessons of the past, gathering. This feels a little bit like a hoarding card. And it may be me. I'll go ahead and show my bias here. Because, again, if you know me, you know I get a little twitchy around obtaining things. I get a little nervous around the acquisition of furniture. Anything that seems really permanent is just a little, because I wish we could be lighter on the land. The acquisition, the capitalist, colonialist idea of gathering all you can, collecting all you can, keeping it for yourself and your own. It's that Tribe Called Quest line. It's don't forget to get yours because I got mine. And we're forgetting that we need to share. And I when I say we, I'm even looking at myself in this introspective moment and thinking about the places in the last couple of weeks where I've felt really tight, really strapped about resources. And, I try to make my life as much about giving as I possibly can, but sometimes you just get tired, and you start to collect little things for that rainy day. And we all know that there's a change coming, whether that'll be a rainy day or a smooth transition depends on each one of us, not on what we own. Somehow we have to remove ourselves from that attachment. That's part of the inertia of the past. That's why we're consulting this Druid spread, right? Is to try and find our way out of this inertia and into a more true, beautiful, and respectful, receptive energy. You can't pour, or what do they say? You can't receive from a full cup. You can only pour from a full cup. And so if you find yourself in that place where you've got some to give, this might be a really good time to do it. The Vedics say that that's a perfect use of the very auspicious day when the sun is in exaltation and the moon is in exaltation. That comes 2 days after this eclipse, the most fortunate day of the year. And this year it's a little bit different. I don't see people consuming themselves with buying gold. I think I see people finding ways to give. And because that's the past lesson, the energy that's moving through, that might be very important for us to take into account as we try to navigate the eclipse portal. Because remember, we do have another eclipse on the other end of this. This energy of weirdness is not going to go away until the 5th, and then the iteration of this, the spiraling outward, will continue for, sometimes 6 months, sometimes people say a year. It's not certain. The sorrow cycle is 18 years long. It could go for as long as that, depending on which theme, which groove it's trying to expose to us and show us. So what's working for us? Dolphin, mana, the breath. Inhale and exhale, right? Another playful creature, another animal that moves quickly and breathes deep. There's a breathing exercise where you just kind of pop your cork, right? You inhale, 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 and then really forcefully exhale and take the navel all the way to the spine to remove the old stagnant energies. I think that's what this is trying to talk about. I think this being the only, we have the otter, but that's a mammal. This is the only aquatic animal that we have in this spread so far. We have one avian. So lots of earth energy here, but this one, still earthy, is quite airy and a little watery. Mana is like God's mandate, right? It's the divine mandate. We have a partner in this that is not from here, in the evolution of our way forward. Feeling like the project of intelligence will go on. It affects so many and so much of the earth and is expensive to Mother Earth. She has invested a lot in us, and a lot of that is about these crisis points for intelligence. Will we move forward? Will we move through? Again, a 4 number or an integer of 4. They're all over this reading. The dolphin, mana, is what's working for us. And then what's working against us is joy. How interesting is that? I'm not even sure what to make of it initially, because it was the future card in our little pre-reading that we did of the goddesses, right? Maybe since it's lined up here next to this card that I've decided is a little bit about hoarding. Yes, I think that's the meaning I'm getting. We need to incorporate some discipline. The 4s, right? Look at the 44. We need to incorporate some discipline into our game. A little austerity is not unwelcome at this point. Are constantly thinking that, this is a party and that the coolest, kindest things are what we should be after. The coolest, most expensive things, my doorbell just rang, is what we should be after at this point. Not so much, maybe. Pranayama is what's recommended at these eclipses, and that's an advanced yogic practice. That's something that we use when we are trying to attain a higher level. And maybe we're just not finding our joy in the right place, right? Not finding our joy in things, but finding our joy in each other and within us might be a little bit more to the point here. So if our joy is working against us, if the things that are bringing us happiness are not true, good, beautiful, then we need to change them, and we need to incorporate a little bit more discipline into our game. Moving forward, our joy can be in sharing instead of in hoarding. Bottom of the deck, gentle. And it's number 4. Okay, so 4 is the number of foundation. 4 is the number of stability. The number 4 card in the tarot is that little celebration, right? The one that you have when you find somebody that you love. The beginning of spring is a celebration. Deer always reminds me of Mrigashira, the animal that is fleet of foot, pursues spirituality, and is on a journey to be dharmic, right? Trying to be karmaless. So in becoming more gentle beings, we are moving away from the outward spiral toward the inward spiral. We are reconsidering our loyalties, and we are in confrontation with the trickster. We have the lesson of our femininity, our receptivity before us, and the lesson of gathering and hoarding behind us, helping us to become more gentle in word, thought, and deed is the breath, and helping us to become more intelligent are the ways in which we derive our joy. The number 4 is the number of this reading. And moving forward, I hope we all have a really great eclipse season. I'll be writing and doing more as we move toward the 5th of May and the lunar eclipse that will end our spring season. Thank you for your attention, for your joy, for your love.